Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Nick Can't Mind here, back with another episode of Meet the Taco Plebs. And today, I have the littlest HODLer. If you are not already following him, you gotta go give him a follow. The link to his Twitter will be down in the description below. But without further ado, bro, thank you for coming on the show, and I'm glad to have you here.
Hey, Nick, thanks a lot. Glad to be here myself. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, so dude, I've been making my rounds on Twitter trying to get, all the plebs on here, and you've been on my list for a while, but especially after you posted a thread kind of talking about how your life has changed and some of the stuff you went through, and it really touched me, and I think it was awesome how Bitcoin changed your life. So I think you're absolutely perfect to come on the show tonight.
Thanks. That really means a lot to me. The thread got a lot of attention, and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. It was just kind of something that I've been kind of putting together for a few weeks, and then finally just decided to sit down and hash it out. But what was more important to me was all the people that it resonated with, and people that seemed like they were having a lot harder struggle, a lot more tough times than I was having, and then they shared their Bitcoin story. So the whole thing was just a great experience.
It's awesome how you can just be open like that on Bitcoin Twitter, and like the plebs are just like, people call us the cyber hornets because we attack all the people who, go against Bitcoin and stuff. But I feel like also we're like a pack of wolves. Like, we attack outsiders, but insiders we treat like family, and we're always there to support them. So I just think that's awesome to see. And I'm really interested in your Bitcoin rabbit hole story and how you found Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's I found it's much like I broke down in the thread, and I really appreciate the kind words, and I couldn't agree more about your take on the plebs and how it's kind of like when you're here, you're family, but don't mess with us sort of thing. I really like that. I take a real sense of pride being just a small part of this community. But how I got started was I'm in my late 30s, and pretty normal life, normal upbringing, middle class, good parents, but just didn't get a lot of kind of experience, financial experience, real world experience, whatever you want to call it, along the way. And it just eventually, along with some, bad personal choices I had made, it just got me to a point in my life where I wasn't happy, because I knew my life wasn't going to turn out how I wanted it to, and how I deserve to turn out for my family, my wife, and my kids. I have an amazing family and most amazing wife. And I wasn't being like, I had a real problem with honesty, not being honest with myself, not being honest with my wife, bad financial decisions, like not thinking about the future, just while I tried to keep up with the same kind of middle class, runabout that everybody else does. And, it's like many times these things do, it came to a head, a few years back, and I had to do, I had a choice to make, and I feel like I made the right one. And that led me to, going to see some counselors, both, mental health counselors, as well as financial counselors. And slowly but surely, one step in front of the other, I got get my life in order, strengthened my relationships. Things started getting infinitely better for me. And then I found Bitcoin. I found a monetary system that lets me be hopeful for the future instead of nihilistic or pessimistic about it. And the Bitcoin, why it's so important to me is this community and this movement is what has allowed me to solidify the good choices that I made in my life once I started doing so, right? Like I've come to understand myself that I'm a real creature of habit, and could have fallen back on a lot of bad habits and bad, things that I was doing. And, but just that hope for the future, knowing that we are part of, this amazing system that's going to propel us into the future and let us, throw off the ridiculous shackles that we've been living under. I mean, once you have hope and confidence in the future and confidence in what you're doing, it just makes everything so much easier. And that's the kind of the boiled down version of my rabbit hole story.
That's awesome, man. It's like Bitcoin was just reinforcing all those good habits that you started to do, and like the incentive structure of Bitcoin was just, it just seemed to be perfect for you, man. That's awesome to see.
Yeah, it really did. I used to have the same thinking as a lot of people, right? Like just, paycheck to paycheck, month to month, event to event, nothing really, I did all the, I had some savings and a few other things here and there, but I also had way too much debt and way too many bad habits, and it was causing stress in my life and my relationships. And it just, once I found Bitcoin and I started stacking sats and just slowly but surely building, and then seeing that wealth grow, and then building that confidence as my knowledge grew, it just reinforced everything. Like, it, for the first time, overall, obviously I've had some good things happen to me in my life, but overall, this was the first time that I've really felt like I've been 100% truly on the right path. And it's just made my family life and my work life and, everything so much better.
I was reading on I went to Texas for a conference and I picked up a book and I was reading it on the plane on the way back home. And it's the book by Robert Breedlove, Julia Taranowski, Jimmy Song, and some of the other people, but it's called Thank God for Bitcoin. And they explain Bitcoin in a way where it's like, it's Bitcoin is like morally right money and fiat is morally wrong money. And they kind of go in and explain in depth why Bitcoin is morally right and, fiat is theft and it's wrong. And yeah, I just think like it's so crazy how money, like the money we use, like we normally don't even think about it, right? Like most people just think about money as a means of exchange. But the money and the financial system we live under, it's insane to me how much it can reinforce and change our habits on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, when you know that, like, over a long enough time period, that it's losing value, so it de-incentivizes you to hold on to it and to save it, because yes, you may have a like an RSP or some sort of account where you get a small amount of interest and that builds over time, and that's what you're taught in school, right? Like compound interest, how important it is and everything else. But at the end of the day, like, you can compound that all you want, but as the dollar loses value, as it has, as you look back historically from the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever time period you want to start, when you see the amount of value that the dollar has lost, and how I make way more money like on paper than, say, my parents did, but that doesn't mean that I'm exponentially better off, because of the value of the dollar has gone down. And it's been really stark here in Canada. We've had huge fluctuations just in my lifetime. Like, I can remember when I was a kid, we lived really close to the American border, and we would go there all the time because the Canadian dollar was worth like $1.30 American. Like, it was a great place to vacation and buy things. And then I think we're sitting at like 68 cents on the US dollar right now. And I know there's a lot of other factors other than just bad monetary policy in that, but it's just, when you see those kind of fluctuations in a system that's we're supposed to base our life around, like, it's just not worth it anymore to me.
Yeah, I always thought like growing up at times, like, inflation just never seemed something that like had a good end goal. And like, it just never seemed sustainable. I can't speak English. Sustainable to me. But like, just like you said, like, you could be making more money, but that doesn't mean you're well off. And I mean, like, as long when the dollar hyperinflates, I could be making millions a year. And normally you'd think that's amazing, but it's like when those millions can't even buy me breakfast, that's a huge problem. And I'm curious, like, I know the Canadian money supply has grown exponentially over the past year because have they been doing like $2,000 stimulus checks like every month or something like that?
That was part of it. The stipulations were that you had to have had your income negatively impacted by COVID by a certain percentage. I was very fortunate. Both my wife and I, we continued working through the pandemic, and my small business is still kicking around. So I didn't receive any government stimulus whatsoever, although a lot of people did. The greater concern up here in Canada is that we don't have the same. I mean, I know you guys don't have a lot of transparency on, like, on the Fed and things like that either, but compared to you guys, we have even less. And we get these nebulous reports, Bank of Canada is doing quantitative easing, and We currently have a liberal government in power. It's a very shaky government with not a majority, but we get news briefs. They're doing this, and we're printing or we're borrowing money against this. But we don't have for instance, Biden comes out and he says, "Oh, we're going to do $1.9 trillion of spending." We haven't gotten that here in Canada, and we have gone almost 2 years to the day without a federal budget, which is just criminal. We're getting our first one in 2 years on April 19th, and anybody that's paying attention is terrified for what's going to be in that. I almost feel like it's going to be like the death knell on my kids' futures, because it's just going to be so incredibly bad, because we know they've been spending all this money and borrowing all this money against the dollar. And it's been going on for 2 years, and we don't even know how much it is, and it's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm. That's so crazy. But I always think I would be so lost and so confused looking at everything going on around today in the US and Canada and the entire world, really. And I would be so hopeless if Bitcoin was not, real, or if Bitcoin didn't exist. So thank God for Satoshi that he made it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's strange, right? Like, even in the last couple of years, I've just noticed such a change in tone with people. And I know the pandemic, and the government imposed restrictions around the pandemic have a lot to do with that. But, I can't walk into a lunchroom at my work without the talk being, people are worried about when they're going to be able to get vaccinated. And I got friends trying to do home renovations, and, the price of lumber is up, 300%, while the government's telling us inflation's only up 1.5%. Like, that's half the problem, is that just no one understands the system, because there's so many moving parts, and there's so many elites and bankers and everything else that we as regular people don't have access to. One of the best things I like about Bitcoin is, like, I run a node and I can just pull up any transaction I want. And, there's some anonymity and some other factors there, but I can see every transaction on the network. There's no dodginess. There's no, where did this come from, or why this is extra Bitcoin? Like, no, that's impossible. I can see it. Like, that transparency is amazing. And I think it's one of the things that makes the Bitcoin so strong.
So going into, that's actually a perfect leeway into my next question is, what do you think is the most amazing thing about Bitcoin? What is your favorite thing about Bitcoin out of all the many, many, many aspects of it?
It's a really hard question, because, like you said, it's just such an amazing system that there's so many things to talk about. But I really enjoy the equality of it all. That's, it's going back to that transparency part, that it is a system that can be built, that anybody can audit, anybody can look at. And there's, of course, a saying that, the plebs use quite a bit, is that everyone stacks the amount of sats that they deserve, right? And, paraphrasing on that, kind of, cultural phrase. And it's really true. So Bitcoin is all about, putting in the work to gain the knowledge. And when you have the knowledge, whether it's given to you by a pleb or a friend, or you read it in an article, whatever it is, when you have that knowledge, it's up to you what to do with it. And we are all equal under the amount of work and knowledge, work that we want to put in, and knowledge that we want to gain. I mean, I'm like I keep saying, I'm a regular middle class guy. I may never get to a whole coin, but I am infinitely better off now than I was yesterday, because I stacked today, and the week before that, and 2 years before that, and certainly 5, 6, 7 years before that. So that's what I love about it. And we all have an equal footing. There's no hidden games. There's no hidden deals. There's no power elites. Call it what you want. That's my favorite part about Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, it's rules, not rulers. It's like the people at the Federal Reserve in the United States, they have to play by the same rules in the same game as, someone in, let's say, in a developing country who, only has a smartphone. And I totally agree. I love the equality of Bitcoin. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it highlights that inflation point too, right? Because you're in a fiat system with inflation, your money is being stolen every day, even if it doesn't leave your bank account, right? And with you get your sats, you get them in your wallet, you take them offline, and no one is coming for those. It's up to your own personal responsibility to hang on to them. Again, making everything equal, because you can't be bled dry through systems that you have no control over.
Oh yeah, and it's like, these people at the Federal Reserve, and people who just run the money, it's like they're just normal everyday people, just like you and me. It's like, what gives them the right to govern over our money and devalue our money, at the click of a button? And Bitcoin, I love it so much because it just levels the playing field. And now, like, they have no choice but to play by our rules. And I mean, like, it may take them a little bit while since, the dollar is still the global reserve currency and they're still going to, try and print their way out of it. But it's like, we know the end game and we know where things are headed. And we're headed towards a Bitcoin standard. And there's literally nothing they can do about it.
I couldn't agree more.
So another thing I wanted to touch on is you said everyone stacks sats at the price they deserve. I really like that, and they stack like the amount of sats that they deserve, and that's just proof of work. You get out what you put in, and that's something that I think is going to motivate a lot of people who, let's say, don't like working a lot or they don't have that much to go out and get what's theirs because they know it's a fair system. They know that they're not getting screwed over in any way, and they can feel confident going out, earning their money, storing it in a money that's behind a wall, just cyber hornets and 21 million hard cap supply, and they can feel confident saving for their future. And once you get over that barrier, because I know there's a big, kind of mental barrier or mental block into Bitcoin, but it's like once you get over that hump, it's like, the sky. I don't even want to say the sky's the limit or the moon's the limit because it's way past that.
Yeah, I'll put credit where credit's due. That's certainly not my saying. I picked it up through the community, but it really speaks to me, and I've used it a number of times. Discussing Bitcoin out there and in the real world and online, of course. And I do think it's true. I would have liked to have gotten into Bitcoin when it was $10 a coin. Of course, who wouldn't? You'd be crazy not to when you've seen the price go up. But that being said, I look back on it, and when the Bitcoin price was that amount, it's when I wasn't making the best choices in my life. So chances are if I had bought 100 coins for $10, I probably would have sold them when they were, $20, right? And, take my profit and go home because I wouldn't have been patient enough and mature enough and ready to see the big picture. So I wouldn't have deserved those sats, I guess, to bring it back to you. So yes, even though I got in at a time when I was not only getting my financial future in order, in the current system. So I couldn't just throw everything into Bitcoin. And the price was obviously, considerable. I was very fortunate to get in when I got in. And a big part of that is, I think, because I got in around the last halving, which BTC Sessions had made a comment that, it's weird that I got into Bitcoin when we were in a bear market, which, I can see his point there, but I was very fortunate that, around the halvings, the community was just so focused on the education of Bitcoin, why we have to have these halvings, why it's important, why this determines the supply that makes it better than the current system that we're in. And yes, even though the price was depressed and there was a lot of volatility, it was a great time to get in. And, I learned as much as I could. And now I can honestly say I feel like I deserve, the sats that I have, right? So.
Let's go.
Exactly. Yeah.
When I first got into Bitcoin, I was thinking like, man, like, because I got in 2017, and I was thinking, man, this thing is like $6,000, and it started at literally zero.
Yep.
How on earth did I miss it when it was a penny, 10 cents, $1, $10, and so on and so on? Like, up until the very first day I heard about Bitcoin, like the very first day I bought it, I had never heard about anything related to it. And as I was going down the rabbit hole, just completely, mind blown about this, currency that was growing under my nose for years and I couldn't even see it. One of the quotes I saw on Twitter was someone who said something like, it doesn't matter if you didn't buy Bitcoin in the past. All what it matters is what you do, with it now and how many sats you stack now. Like, don't, you can't change the past. There's no point in, being upset over it. So it's like, what are you going to do now? Right. And now you're stacking sats. Now you know what to do. And now you're on the right path to, creating a legacy for your family, really, with Bitcoin. And it's awesome to see, dude.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you think about it, and I like to think that I'm honest with myself now, that enough with myself now that I don't look back on those times like, oh, if I only had known, like I'd be a millionaire or whatever, because I probably wouldn't have been. Like I said, I would have made those mistakes. And I've had people, one guy in particular, message me and be like, I know you're really into Bitcoin. I don't think it's for me, but can we talk about it sometime? And, we sat down and had a beer and stuff, and it was great. And he did end up, buying a little. He's not down the rabbit hole, but, at least he's got enough skin in the game that he may want to continue to look at it in the future. But that's one of the things he said to me, like, how are you so passionate about this space when you're getting in, when it's, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 a coin or more? Of course, is where we see it now. I think today it's around 75 in Canada. It's like, he asked me, how do you justify being so passionate about this community when you've missed the boat? And you just stare at people like that with a blank face and you say, man, like, I haven't missed anything. Like, we're just getting started.
We are so early, and it's amazing, like the psychology behind people who, like, haven't taken the time to really understand Bitcoin. And it's hard to understand Bitcoin. Bitcoin takes a deep learning curve. I mean, Bitcoin has a deep learning curve, and I remember when I first got into Bitcoin, I was like, man, I missed the boat. It's $6,000. I got to look into these altcoins to try and match the same success, but obviously we don't do that. We know why that's wrong, but it's like everyone always thinks they missed the boat. I remember, like, American HODL was tweeting the other week saying, like, he found Bitcoin at $200 and thought he missed the boat. I met a guy on Clubhouse that found Bitcoin at $3 and
Oof.
said he thought he missed the boat. And it's like, no matter what price it's Bitcoin is, you're always going to feel like you missed the boat. So it's just better to just start stacking sats and, get on with it.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. And to a point you made earlier, like, if you start with $5, you know what, next week, that's still going to be that same amount of Bitcoin. It might be a few dollars, a few cents less or a few cents more, but we know that we're moving towards a standard where that whatever sats you bought for that $5 is always going to be that amount of sats. It's not going to be, go from 1,500 to 1,200 in 5 years because of inflation. Like, that's not how this works. And yeah, there's definitely a learning curve. And I did the altcoin thing same as everybody else, because I feel like we're programmed into this instant gratification society. I really struggle with my kids, like, trying to help them not get trapped in it, because it's just so easy to be instantly pleased and never bored. And that's what people say when they're like, oh, how can you justify getting into Bitcoin when it's $60,000 a coin? Because all of a sudden it's not a get rich quick scheme anymore for, 99% of the people out there that can't invest, $100 million in one shot. So it's this get rich quick mentality that drives people to altcoins or drives people to the stock market, when you and I both know, and the rest of the plebs know, you get as much as you can and you hold on for dear life. And it doesn't matter if it's $5 or $500. I build my stack a couple bucks every day, $5 or $6 here. If I get a little extra money in my paycheck, I throw it right on there as much as I can. And I don't care if it's $1 today or $10 or $100. It all helps. And I don't feel like I missed the boat in the least.
That's the way, man. That is the way.
Yeah.
So on to my next question. What are you most looking forward to in the Bitcoin space?
I think as I get to know some of the plebs and the people in this community, and you're 100% right what you said at the start of the podcast, that this community is so amazingly open. I think this is the third show like this I've been on, and I'm like, I still don't know why people want to talk to me, but it's just, we're all just one big family. And I want to see more. What I'm looking forward to most is more people in our community, in our family, building around Bitcoin. I think when we were chatting through email there to get ready for this, I said that, it's cool, Visa, PayPal, Tesla, whatever you want to talk about, getting into Bitcoin, fine. But what really excites me is the people that are starting from within the space and building with the space in mind. So, you got Crypto Cloaks, you got Lolly, you got Fold, you got, a a million podcasts and publications and books. So services that we know that are coming down the line around the Lightning Network, and when as adoption continues to pick up, we're going to have even more innovation. And I could care less about what these multi-million-dollar companies are doing, because they're always going to be stuck in their ways. I get it. They may help drive adoption a little bit. They may help bring some more plebs onto our side in the long run, but they're always going to be working within the framework of this old system. So what I'm most excited for with regards to Bitcoin is the new innovations, the new programs, the new services and technologies that plebs like you and me are going to be coming up with, right? And that's that's what I'm looking forward to, is just what the future holds that we're building, not what people are taking from our community thinking it's what we want, because it's not. We want to build our own society, our own way of doing things. And that's what I want to see, more Bitcoiner innovation for Bitcoiners.
Oh yeah. And one of the things that the plebs have over these like big corporations is that the plebs have this like passion for working on Bitcoin and wanting to promote it. Like, the plebs are fully orange pilled, right? And they will, like Michael Saylor says, they'll fight to the death for Bitcoin. Yep. A lot of these institutions won't. And one of the things that reminds me of, I remember like, plebs, we're going to huddle on for dear life. We're not selling for anything. And I remember a few months ago, there was a company that had I think it's called like Next Tech or something. And they had a $4 million allocation to Bitcoin. And when that article came out, FUDDing, it was kind of a FUD, but it was just kind of a misreport of the Bitcoin double spend. They were claiming that Bitcoin was double spent, and the protocol was broken. And this company lost their shit. They sold all their Bitcoin and got out of the market. And to my knowledge, they haven't bought back in. And that was at 30K. Like all they had to do was just do their research and know like why that didn't happen. The plebs weren't freaking out. If anything, the plebs were gobbling up those Bitcoin that that company sold. And it's just like the plebs just have this strong mentality and knowledge of Bitcoin, and they can see past any bullshit that comes up and just keep chugging along, stacking sats. And I think it's also good for like Bitcoin companies as well. It's like, I know like Bitcoin Magazine does this. Like we just hire Bitcoiners off Twitter. I know Swan Bitcoin does the same thing. Corey was talking about it in a podcast. He was like, it's when you're hiring Bitcoiners, you're hiring someone who's going to put 110% effort into their job every day and be really passionate and excited to show up for work. And, obviously happy workers create a great work environment, and, just it's overall great for the company. Whereas like some companies will hire people who have no idea what they're doing. They don't know what Bitcoin is. They don't know, all the details and drama and all the stuff in it. And it's like, they're going to do a worse job just because the Bitcoin space is a very complicated space, and you need these smart plebs working at your place. And I'm just overall super freaking bullish.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a lot more of these. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot. Maybe that's an overstatement. But you're going to see more of these big companies, buy a few Bitcoin, put a little bit of money in it to get the press release while the number's high. And then we're going to see, like you said, that FUD. We're going to get some idiot's going to make the environmental argument that we've debunked 100 times. Somebody's going to talk about double spend. There's going to be a price correction, and someone's going to jump on the it's going to zero bandwagon. You know what I mean? And then they'll get in and they'll get out. And us, normies or Bitcoiners, regular people trying to stack a few sats, like you said, are going to gobble them right up. Michael Saylor's going to sit back and wring his hands, gobble them up. And then these companies that are starting from a Bitcoin starting point, they're going to grab those up. And as the price continues to climb and the system continues to grow, then they're going to become stronger companies. And, I honestly believe that some of these people that, like you said, that are just so amazingly passionate, they either have the skill set or they're willing to learn the skill set because they want to be here. And they're going to be mega companies or the big companies of the future that, that startups and investors are looking for and entrepreneurs aspire to be, because we were here first, right? So.
And it's also pretty cool. Like, I mean, Jack Mallers is a college dropout like myself, and he was talking about on Twitter, and he's like, "Oh, here at Strike, I will hire you if you are passionate about Bitcoin and you can provide value to my company." And he was going off saying how he doesn't care what your background is, what your history is, what if you have a degree or not, if you're a college dropout. He said if you're a high school dropout, he would hire you. I mean, like, where else? And I'm pretty sure I know a lot of other companies in the space with the same mindset. And it's like all they care about is picking up good people and providing value. What other industry are you going to get that in?
Yeah, and I think it's because we all came to our knowledge about Bitcoin, organically, and we, developed a passion for it, and we've shown that aptitude that we can learn and we can adapt and we can be better people. And, and to your point about Bitcoin being moral money, we can be better stewards for the future. And like you said, I've learned more watching YouTube videos and reading books over the past 2 or 3 years than I did when I was in university. And, that doesn't mean that what I learned while I was there was bad or I don't use it anymore, but I feel more value in the stuff that I've independently learned because of my passion for this space and this community and the support of the community members and the plebs that are in it.
100%, bro. So we've gone a little bit over time, which is perfectly fine. This interview, I really enjoyed it, and it went by way too quickly. But
way too fast.
Before we sign off here, I have one more question for you, and you can get as full tart as you want, but what is your price prediction for the end of this year, 2021, and for 9 years at 2030?
So there's no way, with the way things are rolling and the budget that we're about to get up here in Canada next week or so, there's no way that we're not blowing 100K out of the water up here in Canada by the end of the year. I don't have the skill set yet to watch the charts and see the patterns. So, I mean, this is my passion coming through. But in the short time that I've been in this space and with the knowledge that I have acquired, I mean, we're going to blow 100K out of the water easy by the end of the year. Which is insanely cool, of course. But as far as 2030 goes, you know what, man? I don't know. I think it's going to be just as wild as people are saying it's going to be. I mean, we've seen 400K predictions. We've seen 500K prediction. We've seen $1 million predictions. No matter what I say, I'm going to get yelled at for being too bearish. But by the time 2030 rolls around, I'm going to be, at a point in my life where I'm going to be thinking about what my kids want to do after high school, what my business is doing, what my career is doing. And you know what? It could be still 100K in 2030, and it wouldn't matter to me because I'm along for the ride, and I know that if it's worth 100K at 2030, it's something's wrong in the system, and I just can't see it. I think it's going to be worth so much. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to be the system that we want it to be, built by us for us, and that we can be proud of moving into the future with. So yeah, I'm 100K easy, more than 100K easy by the end of this year. And the sky's the limit for 2030, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Let's go. I love that. So thank you again, bro, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed this chat. We got to do it more often. And yeah, before we sign off, is there anything you want to shill or any shout outs you want to do?
No, I'm just happy to, like I said, I've had the chance to do kind of podcasts and shows like these a few times now. And I just always like to bring it back to the people that helped me get started in this space. And those people know who they are and just really the community. I wouldn't be here without you guys. And, while I'm proud of myself for the changes that I made to my life that affected positive change with my family and my work, I don't know if I would have been able to keep them up without the knowledge that I gained in this community and the support of this community. And I had a great time tonight. And, like I said, onwards and upwards, boys, the sky's the limits. Let's do this.
Awesome. So if you made it to the end of this interview, leave a like down below. Also, go follow the Littlest HODLer on Twitter. His link will be in the description. And I'll see you guys next week with a brand new guest. Peace.
Knowing auto invitation, hold on to the pavements. Hate me, love me, for grateful recognition. Heard the lands like filaments. Taste